This video will introduce you to the use of functions in survey solutions conditions. Functions make complex conditions easier to write and understand, and help to prevent errors in the conditions. Survey solution uses C# language for validation and enabling conditions. You can create expressions of arbitrary complexity with C#. However, C# syntax might be complicated for some validation and enabling conditions. Survey solutions contain several categories of functions to simplify writing these conditions. Among these are functions for handling the list of values, string functions, functions for validation of anthropometric measures, and miscellaneous functions. This tutorial illustrates the use of these functions with several examples. Most functions are in this general format. Variable is the variable name from the designer, function is the name of the function, and the parameter list includes values or variable names as required by the particular function. This is the questionnaire section we will be using to illustrate some of the functions available in survey solutions conditions. It starts by ensuring that respondents are between the ages of 15 and 49, then asks a series of questions about food items consumed and where they were obtained. The first task is to ensure that the questions in this section are only asked of respondents who are 15 to 49 years old. We can do this in the validation condition of the first question. But this can be simplified by using the inRange function. Don't forget to type in an error message, save the variable, and compile to be sure that there are no errors. The next question provides a list of food items the respondent may have eaten in the last 7 days. Since this variable includes a none of these option, we want to be sure the interviewer does not select this option along with any others. To ensure this, we can use the length and contains function as shown. The length function gives the number of options that were selected by the interviewer, and the contains function returns a true or false, indicating whether the value in parentheses was one of those selected from the multi-select question. Note that we can use the exclamation mark to negate the results of the function. In this case, this means does not contain 8. This condition says that any one option can be selected, but if more than one is selected, they cannot include none of these. We can improve the way this question is used by disabling it until a valid age is entered into the age variable. We can first ensure that any age is entered before this variable is enabled by using the null value. All variable types except multi-select variables have a value of null until the interviewer enters a value. So if we type the following, this variable will be disabled until a value is entered into the age variable. If we add the following, we also ensure that this variable will be disabled until a valid age is entered. When you enter 14 in the age question, the defined error message will appear. Once you correct it to 18, the error message will disappear and the second question, which is a multi-select consumption question, will be enabled. If the answer option, none of these, is selected with a food item like lamb, the error message will appear. Once you make a correction by deselecting the answer option, none of these, the error message will disappear. The next question asks about the source of chicken, beef, or lamb. So this should only be asked among those respondents who said they consumed one or all of these foods. We can include this enabling condition using the contains function, or we can use the contains any function instead. Note that the contains any function can have as many parameters as needed. If the source of the chicken, beef, or lamb was either a weekly, roadside, or permanent market, the next question asks how far away that market was. Therefore, we want to enable this question only for those respondents who said they obtained these foods from either type of market. Using the inlist function in the enabling condition. We need to use the inlist function because the meat source variable is a single select question. The inlist function can include as many parameters as needed. The next question asked for the source where cauliflower, broccoli, and tomato were obtained, so it should only be asked of those respondents who said they consumed all three of these foods. We could use the contains function, but it is simpler and easier to use the contains all function. We want to limit the next question to those who did not include either type of market in their source for the vegetables. To do this, we can use the is none of function, so this will only be enabled if neither market type was selected. However, this causes a small problem. This question will be enabled before any response is recorded in the veg source variable, since null is neither 1, 2, or 3. Therefore, we can add a test for null to ensure that this question is disabled until a response is entered, and that response does not include 1, 2, or 3. Suppose the respondent consumed lamb, broccoli, cauliflower, and tomato. As you see, this response triggers the meat source and veg source questions. Then, when permanent market is selected in the meat source question, the market distance for meat question is enabled. When permanent market is selected in the veg source question, the follow-up question remains disabled. Don't know is a common option in single and multi-select questions. When used in a multi-select question, it should be checked to ensure it does not accompany any other responses. In this case, we should include a validation condition similar to the food list question. This last condition would have been much easier to type if we had used the self keyword in the food list variable. The keyword self always refers to the current variable name. Now we can copy and paste this condition into the no market variable and just change the 8 to 5. The questionnaire used in this tutorial can be viewed under the Public Questionnaires tab in Questionnaire Designer. It is named Introduction to Functions Tutorial. Additional information, including lists of the available functions and how to use them, can be found at this site.